Right. So me and a friend of mine were having a conversation based upon the abuse of power from teacher to student. And what came into mind was basically this beautiful quote that we all know and love. Uncle Ben to Peter Parker. With great power comes great responsibility. Now, one of my teachers, Azazel, who passed away about a year ago, may he rest in power, said this. He said, responsibility is a response to your ability. Responsibility is a response to your ability. So whatever abilities and gifts and talents that you have, that you teach, that you dispense, that you speak to the people in your teachings, you have the responsibility to that ability and the power to either teach that particular individual correctly or to abuse that particular power and now control or mold that particular individual to how you see it fit. Mind control. We've all seen it in movies, cartoons, animations, and in real life situations where people have power to teach, to help, and they abuse or manipulate that particular individual in ripping and sucking energy out of them so they can feel high and mighty while the student is left dispensed and low in energy and frequency. So this was the response to it, because with great power comes great responsibility. And we all know from this particular quote that initially that Peter Parker always holds back when he fights his opponents. He holds back. He holds back basically so much that he knows that if he was to go full blow, that he would actually kill his enemies. So, with great power comes great responsibility. So the question is, whatever gifts and talents and abilities that you have, are you responsible? Do you know your abilities? And how are you actually working with that within that particular frequency to initially dispense and help and maneuver the teachings of initially of who you are to this particular student or community, or when you're creating content, how are you dispensing that information? Is it for selfish needs? Is it to help? Is it to advance basically society and the community? Or are you doing it just for yourself? So this is the thing. So it breaks down to, again, with great power comes great responsibility. We all have a responsibility to ourselves, number one. But whatever comes out of your mouth, when you have the awareness basically of what's in here and how it comes out through there, when you speak basically now your energy changes and people know your energy is shifted because they understand and know that initially what's coming out of you is actually balanced, pure, and it's to basically just to help the particular individual. So like, for example, when I speak to pass the message on. I don't speak for people to agree or to disagree. What one needs to do is observe, inquire. When you're able to observe and inquire in the now, not in the past or the future, because, well, there is no future because you can't have a future thought. But when you observe in the now, then everything becomes very, very clear because you're in the flow state. You're in the isness of being. And whatever intuition comes up, whatever comes up, being the rise of consciousness, that particular spark now is now brought to the surface, and now it gets contained within the element of thought, which is the past. But that particular experience, that particular channel didn't come from a book, a teacher. It came from within you. And that becomes basically the being of who you are expressing itself in the now, which becomes the self, which becomes basically thought and the past, time and thought and time. Because when you think, you time travel into the past, and that becomes a life lesson for your soul to learn and experience within this particular experience. Meaning you get the channel. Once you get that particular information via intuition, you act upon it, you sing, dance, draw, you do. And that becomes the lesson for your soul to actually learn. So, I know I kind of went off the topic, but yeah, this is an amazing quote. With great power comes great responsibility. And if you abuse that particular ability, you know what happens next. This is why when you look at initially all the superheroes, Marvel, DC, whatever you want to call it, they always come to a crossroad of where, do I use my abilities to do this or do I use my abilities to do that? And anytime they go sideways or they take the wrong path, they initially, of course, what do you call it? They suffer to a degree. But it's a life lesson. So even if you take that particular, you go within that particular direction and it's not the path for you, but you know it's not the path for you, but you experience it, as long as you've learnt the lesson, you now basically know that with great power comes great responsibility, because you've learnt your life lesson, so you won't go down that route. But if you decide to go down that route, then boy, the lesson becomes harder and harder and harder and harder until you actually break the cycle. For example, let's say somebody steals something for the first time ever from a shop. The store owner says, okay, cool, I forgive you, don't do it again. The same person walks down the street, they initially rob an item from somebody. The police come in, they give them a caution, don't do it again. They steal again. What happens now is the police, like we warned you before, you're going to have to do maybe like 100 hours of community service. They steal again. The police will be like, you know what? Enough is enough. You go to court, you initially go to jail. And then initially they come out of prison, they steal again, and they could potentially come across someone that is just not right in their head, and they get killed. So the lesson becomes, the first time the lesson is easy, it gets harder and harder and harder and harder. But when you break initially, when you are aware basically of the situation, then you break basically the cycle. You dissolve the particular energy. You've learnt your lesson, and you don't have to experience it again, because you've already had the experience for you not to experience it again. But that's pretty much what I wanted to pretty much say to you, beautiful people. But again, with great power comes great responsibility. The question is, do you have the responsibility to your ability? Every single one of you does. But maybe you've never looked at it within this particular context, because when you understand and understand who you are, and what your responsibility is, and where the power is within that particular ability or abilities, then with great power comes great responsibility. So yeah, when I always hear this particular quote in any Marvel show, whatever it might be, what I've just said to you is initially what I think of on a daily basis of that particular quote. So with great power comes great responsibility. Thank you, of course, for listening. As always, if you have any questions, please leave them down below, and I'll do a video response if you want me to go deep into your questions and so forth. Thank you for watching. See you in a bit. Oh yeah, I'm going to pop down today to Forbidden Planet. I'm going to make some more videos today. See you in a bit.